Outpost 14 hung in low orbit over the swirling gas giant Vala 9, its skeletal metal girders shivering under the endless void of space. Captain Rourke Anders stood silently in the command center, one cybernetic hand resting on the steel console. As his organic, I surveyed the approaching dots on the hollow display. His men had grown used to quiet tension. Rourke was the kind of man who rarely spoke unless the situation demanded it. The outpost's radar screamed to life, pulling the crew's focus back to the moment. "They're here," murmured Jarrett Delvin, the unruly yet brilliant engineer. His fingers twitched over control panels as data flooded in. A Therakai fleet, smaller ships in a loose formation, had breached the perimeter. Sergeant Maddox, a boulder of a man with grizzled features, stood beside Rourke and scoffed. "Another probe, Captain." Rourke didn't answer immediately. His attention locked onto a larger anomaly behind the smaller fleet, a colossal Therakai dreadnought, its ominous silhouette spreading across the grid like a shadow. "That's no probe," Rourke finally said, his voice calm yet cold. "It's a spearhead." The weight of the words settled into the room like ice. If the dreadnought reached Earth's frontier colonies, there would be no stopping the invasion. Maddox growled under his breath. "What do we do, sir?" Rourke turned toward the crew, his cybernetic fist tightening. "We hold. We're the line between extinction and survival. Simple choice, gentlemen." The outpost sprang into action, alarms wailing as men donned armor and rushed to their stations. Maddox barked orders to his Marines, his unflinching resolve anchoring the team. Jarrett cursed under his breath, rerouting power to defensive systems. As the enemy fleet loomed closer, the gravity of their reality became clear. Outpost 14 was alone. The men knew what was coming, but Rourke's words rang in their minds like steel. "They think we're weak because we're few. Let's prove them wrong." The assault began with a fury. Energy blasts crashed into Outpost 14's shields, rattling the structure as though the universe itself sought to tear it apart. Maddox's Marines dug in at the outer defensive points, unleashing heavy railgun fire on the enemy fighters that buzzed around the outpost like insects. Inside the command center, Jarrett's hands flew over the consoles, sweating as he monitored system after system. "Shields are collapsing, Captain," he shouted. Rourke stood tall amidst the chaos, issuing orders with the calm precision of a man who'd lived through too many battles. "Target their light cruisers. Concentrate fire. We need to break their formation." Outpost 14's missile turrets erupted, streaks of fire cutting through the blackness of space as explosions blossomed in the enemy ranks. But the dreadnought remained untouched. It drifted forward like a leviathan, slow but unstoppable. Watching the scans, Rourke's jaw tightened. "It's powering up something big." Jarrett paled as he read the data. "Sir, that weapon, it'll vaporize us in one shot." The room fell silent for a heartbeat, save for the distant echoes of explosions. Rourke broke the silence with a steely resolve. "We're not dead yet. Jarrett, how many gravity mines do we have left?" Jarrett blinked. 4, maybe 5, hidden in the orbit ring. Rourke's mind moved faster than his cybernetics. "We're going to use those mines to split their fleet, turn their own momentum against them. Maddox, you'll secure the deployment bay. Jarrett, you rigged the mines manually." A desperate plan was set in motion. Jarrett sprinted to the deployment hangar, sweat beading under his helmet as enemy fighters strafed the hull. Maddox and his Marines covered him, holding off boarding aliens in a brutal firefight. Jarrett released the mines just as an explosion rocked the bay. For a moment, the mines drifted like forgotten debris. Then boom, gravity fields rippled through the void, tearing the alien fleet's formation apart. Smaller ships spiraled out of control, colliding with one another in fiery detonations. The men cheered, but their victory was short-lived. The dreadnought pushed forward, its superweapon glowing ominously. Rourke watched in grim silence. "They're bigger," he muttered. "We just have to be meaner." The dreadnought loomed closer, its superweapon charging with the slow inevitability of death itself. Inside the command center, Rourke stared at the data and made his final call. We're ramming it. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Jarek turned from his console, eyes wide. You mean detonate the fusion core? Sir, that's suicide. Rourke met his gaze. It's the only way to stop it. Maddox, hearing the plan through his comms, gave a grim laugh. I've had worse mornings. With silent agreement, the men moved as one. Jarek tore open the fusion core's failsafes, sweat pouring as his fingers danced over manual overrides. Maddox rallied his remaining Marines to defend the corridors against relentless boarding parties. Blood splattered the walls. But Maddox stood his ground, shouting above the carnage, "Hold the damn line." Rourke took his place at the helm, guiding the crippled Outpost 14 toward the dreadnought. The station system screamed in protest as power surged into the thrusters. Explosions rippled through the halls, sparks raining down as the station closed the gap. Rourke's voice crackled through the intercom. For humanity, with a final push, Outpost 14 slammed into the dreadnought's hull. The fusion core detonated. Silence followed, an endless empty silence, as if the universe itself paused. Then came the explosion. A blinding cascade of fire and debris consumed the Therakai dreadnought, shattering its superweapon and ripping it apart piece by piece. Hours later, escape pods drifted through space. Survivors huddled in the darkness. Jarek's escape pod floated near Rourke's, his voice crackling over comms. "We did it, sir. We stopped it." Rourke, bleeding but alive, looked out at the remains of Outpost 14 scattered across the stars. "It cost us everything," he said softly, then smirked through cracked lips. "But they know we're still here." The Therakai fleet had been broken, its spearhead shattered. Humanity had held the line. Far away, distant reinforcements picked up their signals. "Outpost 14, do you read?" a voice called. Rourke leaned back in his seat, staring at the stars. "Took you long enough," he muttered, closing his eyes. Humanity had proven, once again, that they did not break. They endured. Final line, tell them, we're still here,